Hello family and friends and fellow YouTubers, it's Kim here from Hancock Homestead and Gardens, and today it's supposed to be time for This and That Thursday, but if you watched my walk around from yesterday, you saw that I have 3 trees loaded with apples. So I need to be doing some apple processing, and the first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the apples in syrup. And the recipe that I am using comes from the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. Okay, so this is what I'll be using to can my apples as slices. Alright, so the first thing I need to tell you is that this recipe that I'm going to use will either make 8 pint jars or 4 quart jars. And I'm going to be making the quart jars. Okay, so if you heard me read, it said that the 10 to 12 pounds of apples, which would be 30 to 36 cups, need to be treated to prevent browning. Alright, and on here it tells me to look at this page to find out how to prevent browning. And I'm going to go ahead and just read this to you in case some of you do not have this book. So, it says to prevent fruit from browning. When fruit is cut, peeled, pitted, or stemmed, the flesh is exposed to oxygen and a reaction occurs that causes the exposed areas to turn brown. Light-colored fruits, such as apples, apricots, peaches, and pears, are particularly susceptible to browning. The reaction can be prevented by treating fruit with an antioxidant such as citric acid. You can use a commercial produce protector, and you can buy, like, I think it's called Fruit Fresh. You can use a commercial produce protector containing ascorbic acid, vitamin C, or a mixture of ascorbic and citric acids. Okay, and you follow the manufacturer's instructions. But you can also submerge the cut fruit in a mixture of 1/4 cup of lemon juice to 4 cups of water. Okay, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be using the lemon juice method. So, the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and start peeling, stemming, coring, and quartering these apples. Alright, because I have a lot. This is just one 5-pound bucket. We have another one in waiting, and there's still more out there on those trees. So I have a lot of apples to do. Alright, so let me get these apples ready to process, and then I'll go on to the next step. Okay, now, I do have a fancy apple peeler that I bought myself last year because, as most of you know, I have arthritis in my hands. They don't work very fast or for very long, but I just find that thing to be a nuisance. That's my personal opinion, okay? It may work for some of you, and I have found it works better on store apples because they're a more uniformed shape. But for my apples that come out of my orchard, when I have something big like this, and then I have something small, or I have something odd shaped, it just doesn't do quite as good of a job. So I'm just going to go ahead and start hand peeling, okay? And I have my computer sitting right here so that I can watch some YouTube while I'm doing this, alright? So I'm going to be checking out some of you while I'm doing this, because this is going to be an all-day process. But I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'll show you one. I mean, peeling apples, no big deal. Get your apple. This is how I do mine. I just peel all the way around. And yes, I know there's probably some of you saying, oh, she's taking a lot of fruit with those peelings, but with my arthritis, it's just really hard for me to get too finely detailed with this knife. So, And Karen and the babies, they had doctor's appointments today, so I don't know that she'll be out to help me with this today. I know she'll be out sometime because she wants to try some apple butter. So I told her that was fine as long as she didn't mind peeling all those apples. It takes a lot of apples to make apple butter. Okay, so after you get to this part, you're going to see that you have some rough spots. If you have a homegrown apple orchard, you're going to have rough spots, okay? The commercial apple growers, you know, they have their methods of keeping out the worms and the bruising and stuff, but a homegrown orchard, you're going to have smaller apples, you're going to have buggy apples sometimes, you're going to have bruised apples from where they hit the ground, but we just do our best to use what we can for the human consumption, and then whatever's not good enough for us, we give to the chickens. So none of our apples go to waste. Then I do have this fancy gadget, and it just slips right down over the core. And it usually works pretty good most of the time. And then it will give me these little cubes. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one for you, and then I'm going to turn you off because I'm sure you don't want to see all of this. Okay friends, so if you look back here, you're going to see this 5-gallon bucket, and they have all been peeled and cored. And I've done this bucket. I think these are 2-gallon buckets, maybe 3, I don't know. But I've done a whole bucket full, and then I am down to the very last bit, okay? Now, these here that I'm doing first, these are the Macintosh. And we have already gone through a 5-gallon bucket of Macintosh, just fresh. We've done fresh eating. John's made an apple pie. Yes, he cooks too. I've made an apple pie. Karen's good about making apple crisp, which are a little bit faster than apple pies, but taste just as good. So we have already gone through a whole 5-gallon bucket just for fresh fruit and fresh recipes. I want to make sure I have some canned and ready to go for this winter. Alright, so I am down to my last apples, and after having done this, and I've been putting tally marks on my wipe off board so I know where I'm at. The recipe that I'm using is calling for 10 to 12 pounds, okay? And I researched and found that 3 cups equals 1 pound. And this is a 4-cup measuring cup. Now, 10 times 3 is 30, 12 times 3 is 36, okay? So, and this is 4 cups. So 36 divided by 4 means that I have to have 9 of these, okay? And I have already done 8. So I am down to the last one of these 4-cup. Alright, so now I'm going to take you over here to the sink and show you what I've been doing after I get a cup full, okay? Okay, so over here in these 2 big Revereware stock pot pans, which I was telling you is one of my favorite tools here on the homestead, I have filled each one of these up halfway with water. That's 16 cups, okay? Other 4 cups, but what I've been doing is before I add the cups to them, I rinse them off super good and double checking for seeds and little peeling bits. Okay, I'm just kind of doing a double check. and then put them over in the pan. I'm not sure you would have to do this part, but I just feel better about doing it. I don't want to be biting down into an apple pie or applesauce and finding a seed. So I just double check. Okay, so after I rinse the apples off, then I've been putting them over here into these large stock pots. And these are my Revereware stock pots that are 8 quarts. And I use these things for everything. Canning, homemade soups, homemade chilies. They are a fantastic pan to have on hand, okay? And they're nice and tall and deep, and I just love them. The mixture that are in these 2 pans, it's 1/4 cup of lemon juice to 4 cups of water, okay? And I want each of these half full of water so that the apples could actually soak down in there. So to get them half full, I had to use 16 cups, okay? 4 of these. So that meant that I had to use 1 whole cup of lemon juice, okay? Because 4 times 1/4 is a cup. So that's what's in here, and that's what's going to keep my apples from turning brown, okay, or mostly brown. They might have just a little bit of brown on them from where I've sliced down from the core. That part seems to get brown a little bit, but the rest of it will stay a nice, pale, fleshy yellow. All right, so okay, so now it's time to get these jars ready. I'm doing quart jars, okay, and it's time to get them boiled so that they can be sterilized, which I've already done in the dishwasher, but I just want to get them hot again. And then there's the water, okay, and I also will have to cook these apples down in the light syrup, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But while I'm waiting for the water to boil, I am going to take a break, and I'm going to show you what's left of the apple crisp that Karen made last night. So this is part of what happens to our fresh apples. We make things with them. And this is the apple crisp that she made. And I'm not sure how she makes the topping. I can't remember the recipe exactly. I know it's got oats and butter, I think brown sugar, but yeah, it's delicious. And it's especially good heated up and over the top of ice cream. So I'm going to go have me a bowl of apple crisp while I take a short break here. Okay friends, so I have my apples back here in the water heating up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add enough sugar to these to make a light syrup. So the apples will be in a light syrup. And according to the book, it says that I need a ½ cup of sugar for every 5 cups of water. Now, if you remember, I said that I put 16 cups of water in these 2 pans. So 16 divided by 5 is a little over 3 cups, because if you took 15 divided by 5, that would be 3 cups, but I put in 16 cups. I'm going to need about 3 and maybe 1/3 of sugar in each one of these. Okay, so I have my cup out here. There's 1, 2. Get down some more sugar. One of the reasons I love these containers is because these big ones will hold exactly 5 pounds of sugar. Alright, so I put in 2. Alright, there's my 3. I'm going to do a 3rd. Alright, alright. And I'm going to do the same thing over in the other pot. 1, 2, 3, and a 3rd. And you don't have to have the sugar measurement exactly because they give you all kinds of cup to water ratios depending on how light to heavy you want your syrup. And I'm just going with the light syrup. So that's the ratio. And I'm just going with the light syrup, so that's the ratio that I use. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir the sugar in. Make sure it's all through my water, and I'm going to push those apples down in there. Make sure they're in that sugar water. Now, what the syrup does, let me tell you what the syrup does. It says in the book, the canning liquids that contain sugar help the fruit to hold its plump shape and maintain its color and delicious flavor. Okay? But it says if you're watching your sugar or your calorie intake, that you can go from ultralight syrup all the way down to heavy, to corn syrup, and even honey syrup. So, yes, it gives a nice chart right here in this book. Okay, so all of these apples have been stemmed, peeled, cored, and quartered. Okay, and then they've been treated with the lemon juice water mixture. Then I drained off that lemon juice mixture because that's what it tells me to do, is to drain it. And I am fixing my hot syrup mixture now with the apples already in it. Alright, so step number 1 says to prepare your canner jars and lids. So I'm over here doing that. Step 2 says, in a large stainless steel saucepan, combine your apples and syrup. Bring to a boil over medium-high heat. After they start to boil, which they're almost there, not quite yet, then I will reduce the heat to medium-low and I will boil gently for 5 more minutes. Then that is when I will start packing the apples into jars. Okay? Okay friends, so while I've been waiting for this to boil for 5 minutes, a light boil, I have been laying out all of the equipment that I need. And now I'm ready to take this off the heat. So I'm going to set it over here on my cutting board to protect the table from the heat. I also have these things here that my mom made me a long time ago, and they protect my table from heat. Alright, so I'm going to grab a jar. I'm going to start filling these up with apples. Now, whenever you do this, make sure you're pouring away from you so that you do not scald yourself. Alright, and I have a little saucer I'm sitting this on. And then, using a slotted spoon, I'm going to start filling this jar here with apples, okay? And I've zoomed in a little bit so you can see the jar better. So in the beginning, when you first start filling your jar, you want to use a slotted spoon so you can get as many apples in there as possible. And you're supposed to leave a 1/2 inch headspace, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to run this around the edges. I'm going to make sure everything's kind of down in there. All right, I can get a couple more apples in. All right, and then what I'm going to do is after I have as many apples in there as I can get, I'm going to fill it the rest of the way with juice, okay? And that juice I'm going to have to let settle down in there a little bit. It's going to fill in all those cracks. To 1/2 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to debubble one more time. Taking my debubbler, going around the edges here. All right. Just a tiny bit more juice at the top. Not much, just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a lid. Whoops, nope, I'm not. Not yet. Then I'm going to wipe off the rim because I want to make sure that I have nothing on that rim that's going to cause me not to get a good seal. Now I'm going to put on a lid. Okay, and a ring. And I'm going to do what they call fingertip tight, okay? And then I'm going to set it over here and I'm going to go to the next jar. Okay friends, so I was able to get 6 jars into the water bath canner. And I am processing them for 20 minutes. And then I will take the lid off and let them set for another 5.